The following program is exclusively produced by Big Head Amusements for KQEK Digital.
How did you get involved with Hatfields and McCoys? Because it's a really unusual story for television.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it all started with John Debney. John and I we have the same agents, and we actually had done a few jobs prior to Hatfields McCoys together, although I was more brought on to kind of help as an arranger and do some additional music here and there. And John was interested in doing the Hatfields job and literally just brought me on board. He's like, hey, you want to do this together? And I'm like, let's do it. And that's how we got involved together.
In the story itself, I mean, I guess it must have been one of the harder projects to score because it's essentially an ongoing feud that goes over, I don't know, what was it, 20 years or more at least. It's basically propelled by violence. There's constant episodes of violence, and I wonder if that made it more difficult for you to kind of find sort of the meaning in each one and how it affects the characters.
Exactly. The day one of Creative Talks hinged on, listen, this is a long story. There's a lot of emotions, a lot of tragic storylines here, and we need to be able to tell the story without losing the audience because, as you know, it spans over obviously 3 nights and it's a long, many years. So the approach to try to keep everyone moving forward and interested was to really create a thematic score that was contemporary but yet authentic to the time, which was post-Civil War, late 1800s, and the region in the Appalachia. So we decided that we needed to give an overall theme that we could go to when it was more of a story about both sides together, the Hatfields and the McCoys. We had a theme for the McCoys. We had a theme for the Rosanna and Johnsy love story, and a theme for the Hatfields. And fortunately, with enough material like that, it sort of started to write itself after so long because we just knew where to go to for a particular scene and to make it work.
And how much input did you get from both the director and the producer? Because Kevin Costner, I think, was one of the co-producers of the series.
Yep, absolutely. Lots of input. They were great and really supportive, and the communication was fantastic. Because sometimes on these kind of jobs, people are moving around and it's hard to hear back and keep going. But every time we would send some music, play some things, we got instant feedback, and they were very positive. And when things were maybe off the mark, it was like, well, let's try another angle, or maybe we should try a little bit less fiddle, because we decided to, as far as the color went, to stay true to the Appalachian sound. So we used a lot of instrumentalists from roots music, fiddles and banjos and mandolins, and colored them with some more contemporary approaches. So back to the producers and director, they would obviously call out on some of those things and say, hey, let's try this and let's try another thing and see if this works. And it was real collaboration.
Were there any kind of cliches that you had to overcome, either in terms of from musical side or also just from the story itself? Because for myself, I guess the Hatfields and McCoys, I can think my earliest memory is from a Bugs Bunny cartoon. And it basically parodies the whole thing, whereas the teleplay itself is just obviously completely serious and really, really tragic.
Well, yeah, I think that's what was really important, and that came from the top down as far as how to approach things. And they wanted to tell the emotional part of this, not just the guns a-blazing and people dying, but how it affects the family. And after how so many years, it was like, how did this even begin? People are dying left and right. I don't even know what really started this over a pig. So, yeah, that was something we had to figure out. Fortunately, it was also set in the Appalachia. Therefore, the inclination to do an old style kind of Western sound wasn't even valid because we weren't in the West.
Mm-hmm.
So, score approaching that, we right off the bat, like, okay, well, this is not going to be another just kind of a Western score, something you'd kind of expect to hear, blazing horns and orchestra. Let's really bring it back and utilize this, the beauty of the Appalachian music and those instruments in more of an intimate sound.
Were there any particular instruments that you discovered during that process of research and when you were, I guess, auditioning some of the musicians?
Well, John and I are both guitar players, so fortunately we had a little bit of a leg up on, the guitar aspect of it, the acoustic guitars and, 12 strings and some other guitars, resonator guitars, mandolins and stuff. One really neat instrument we did discover on the guitar angle was a guitar called a Weizenborn guitar. And we had a guy by the name of Ben Peeler who played guitar for us. And the Weizenborn guitar, if you imagine, it's a lap guitar similar to like a pedal steel style, as in how it's played, but it's an acoustic guitar. So you get the resonance of an acoustic guitar, but it's played in the style of the slide, so it just lends itself to this sound, but it has a little bit more of an earthy feeling with it. We tinkered with bowing a lot of string instruments, which we hadn't, like, not just violins, but we would bow dulcimers, lap dulcimers, and just to try to get some new colors and different effects for things that might need some more attention moments, but to keep it in the realm of our sound. And some hand stuff. We decided, as far as percussion went, we wanted to again try to keep it organic, and came across some really neat like skin drums. Our percussionists brought these drums that were made of different sorts of skins and faux animal skins, but just had an earthy, warm, kind of lively tone.
And then your background still includes a huge amount of arranging. Was that your initial entry into film scoring?
Actually, yes. In a roundabout way, yes. I got my start actually doing commercials, and I spent two or 3 years just kind of honing my chops writing commercials daily at a commercial music company, and then decided to pursue some more arranging work through film and television, which eventually led me to doing some work for a few composers, a composer by the name of Harry Gregson Williams and Brian Tyler, and my duties for them were different in that for Brian it was more arranging, from the ground up as far as creating things and taking his themes and working out scenes. And Harry, it was a different experience in that he would bring me a cue that was practically done, but I would do some guitar work on it. He would really utilize my guitar playing, and it was a great experience. Both guys learned a lot.
For the two composers, they have really, really different styles. One of the things I like so much about Tyler's work is that when it comes to writing for an orchestra, he's capable of coming up with these amazing, massive sounds, and I think the Final Destination films are a great example of that. And I think you arranged one of the film scores.
Absolutely, yeah. We've done, Final Destination, I worked on with him. That was the one before the latest installment, and we've done other movies, Fast Five, Fast and Furious, Battle Los Angeles, The Expendables, and you're right, he's got a fantastic ear to get the adrenaline running through the veins that you're seeing, but you don't really notice it because it's all working together so well. And a great mind, because he just knows how to put it all together and make it all come out.
And then with Harry Gregson Williams, I've always liked the way that he combines orchestra and electronics, because his electronic stuff is really interesting. It doesn't age, I find, because he uses specific sounds in a really creative way, and he writes the kind of scores that also matched Tony Scott's kind of idiosyncratic editing style as well. So it's a perfect marriage between the two.
Absolutely, yeah. It's always exciting when I get a call from Harry, because I know even if I just work on one cue, I'm going to hear something neat and something new and something fresh, because that's really one of his approaches. He wants to do something that you really haven't heard before, and he's obviously become sort of a master at it.
For all the different composers that you've worked with, have you sort of picked up little bits of information from each one that kind of helped in your own writing as well?
Absolutely, it's been quite a great experience. I've almost gone through two schools after college. College and then in the real world, working for guys that are out there and doing it, and drawing from them what I think will be helpful for me and my outlook on things, and just continuing to learn from them as I go along. It's been great. And
lastly, I'm always impressed that in your CV, it's just a massive list of credits from all these different kinds of genres, which probably has given you this great flexibility so that you can not just work in film and commercial and television, but you can also bounce between different genres.
Yes, yeah, I've, long time ago when I first got my start, when I started commercials, I actually started them at a commercial division of Hans Zimmer's Media Ventures, and I spent about a year there before that time ended. But one of the things I learned there was Hans Zimmer said something to me about the fact that, find out what it is you can do and what you are good at, and craft that and focus in on that craft, and then it'll translate across the board as you're going to get other calls for other types of things. At least you know what your voice is and hone in on that. And I've never forgotten that. It's one of the greatest pieces of advice I've ever received.
I think with Zimmer, I mean, he must have also acted as a very important mentor for a lot of composers, both in terms of advice and in terms of the experience that he's offered.
Yeah, he's great. I mean, he's certainly one to groom and kind of show you the way and let you learn it and get you out there and not hold you back.
For related film and film music reviews, please visit KQEK.com. This program is copyright 2013 by Mark R. Hassan.